Right, we've got some big breaking news and it comes from Manchester United. Our reporter Daniel Kahn has joined us on set. Daniel, what is this big breaking news?
This is huge news for Manchester United, Tom. They are close to an agreement with Brighton and Hove Albion for the signing of midfielder Konsa, Baleba, someone they have long admired for well over 12 months. Very much they looked at him in the last 12 months. Last summer, they inquired about him again in January. They are very close to agreeing a fee with Brighton. We don't think personal terms will cause any issues. That should be done very swiftly. And they also have a 5-year contract ready for Baleba. We expect him to undergo medical in the next 24 to 48 hours and travel to Manchester to undergo that medical. And this is felt like it's come out of nowhere, I must say. You know, when you consider where Manchester United have been in the last few weeks in terms of being close to looking at left back and were they going to look at that midfielder? But now it seems the breaking news is Manchester United very close to agreeing a fee with Brighton for the signing of Konsa Baleba.
How good a signing would that be, Tim, for Manchester United's midfield?
Yeah, I'm a believer. I think he's very good. I'm a bit surprised they haven't done it earlier. You know, I don't know whether they've been waiting, Brighton, trying to get the price up. He's been available. If they're letting him go now, he was obviously available at the beginning of the window, you know, so just go and take him and bring him to Michael as quickly as possible and let him fit into the system of how he wants to play. I'm really surprised they haven't gone for Adam Wharton, or any team that hasn't gone for Adam Wharton. He would be my choice. I like players who are a little bit more cultured. I know maybe the balance of the midfield they already have there at Manchester United, they need someone with legs in there who can get around the pitch, and I think Baleba fits that bill. I still think he's raw, I really do, but I think he's going to a good coach there in Michael Carrick. Jonathan Woodgate, you know, they're in good hands there. So, yeah, it's a positive news for Man United fans, just to add one to your squad, because there's more games now.
I think he's exactly the type of profile that Manchester United midfield needs, and Tim will know much better than I, but in terms of profile, in terms of what you think they're missing with... They've signed Andre Santos, they've signed Yuri Tillmans, but when you've watched them in pre-season, they've missed... You know, they're trying to fill in what they're losing, Casemiro leaving the club in the summer. They've got, you know, the youth in Andre Santos. I think there's a lot of raw materials there. You have
and
the ball-playing skills. Yeah, absolutely. The ball-playing skills of Kobbie Mainoo, and he's just developing all the time, and Yuri Tillmans as well. But what Konsa Baleba represents is not just, you know, the physical aspects of his game where he can cover ground incredibly well. He's very good at, you know, front pushing passes through the lines as well. And we didn't see that a lot last season at Brighton. But I'm telling you, I think if they can get him back to that form we saw the season before and before that even, they have a fantastic player. And like I said, he is someone Manchester United have admired for a very long time. They inquired about him last summer. The price tag was seen as too high, well north of £80 million. The season he had, I think Manchester United were always confident that fee was going to come down. It was up to Brighton as to whether that would. Yeah. And, you know, we're standing up the fee now, Tom, so we'll have more on that later. But that has undoubtedly come down, and that's what Manchester United are waiting for. And there has been a clear gap in that midfield in terms of combinations, and we were talking about that just before we came on air. So it is, I would almost say, a game-changing signing for Manchester United in terms of competing in different competitions and also just opening up all these combinations now. You look in that midfield.
Much more on
I'm not sure it's a game changer.
Go,
I'd have to say, I'm not sure he's a game-changing signing. I wouldn't be that excited. I'm not falling off my chair if I'm a Man United fan about this signing. I think he's got a lot of developing to come. And the reason why his fee's gone down is because he was so poor last season. So, I mean, he's brought the fee down. It'd be interesting what that fee is. But he's not a dud signing, that's for sure. And he's still got development in him, but he's not finished. They've got a lot of young players that are not finished articles. Tielemans is. And Kobbie Mainoo, even, I believe, is still developing. So, yeah, it's another option for him.
It's interesting from a Brighton perspective as well, just to mention them, because, you know, I actually asked Fabian Herzl at the end of last season when they played Manchester United in the last game of the season. Baleba came on, and I asked him how much you're looking forward to, you know, Konsa Baleba, you know, staying at the club and working with him in the future. And another journalist asked him the same question, and he said, 100%, you know, looking forward to next season, when you consider they have European football as well. So you'd imagine from Brighton's point of view, they've also, as their recruitment is so strong, already identified replacements to reinforce their midfield as well.
Yeah, we're told, just into us now, this, Daniel, we're expected the fee is going to be just in excess of £60 million for Manchester United. More.
We're going to begin, though, with breaking news concerning Arsenal. Anton, what can you tell us about the news at the bottom of our screens?
Well, Arsenal are in talks with Aston Villa about a move for Ezri Konsa. Now, we believe those talks are at an advanced stage. We know Arsenal are targeting another defender before the close of the window. They were looking at two options, weren't they? Konsa and Gerald Quansah. Now, they looked at Gerald Quansah, spoke to Leverkusen previously in the window, and they thought the price was too high. So they've gone back in for Ezri Konsa because they're looking for replacements, because they've got William Saliba out injured for a while, Urian Timber out for a while, and Ezri Konsa can play both right back and centre back, as we've seen with England. So he's kind of the perfect cover. And at the age of 28, he's got 2 years left on his deal at Aston Villa. You're thinking, this is the time he could potentially cash in and get the biggest contract of his career. So interesting to see where the players' head's going to be at. But yeah, Aston Villa fans will be a little bit worried, considering he's another senior player that may well be on the move this window.
Jeff, I mean, Anton mentioned there that the injuries that Arsenal have got in defence, but Saliba will be back eventually. Timber also out at the moment. Would this be a good move for Konsa? Should he make the move if it's available? It's
an interesting one, just because of how highly thought of he is in Aston Villa. But how do you turn down the league champions, and you are guaranteed you're going to play for the first few months? And then does he back himself and think, I'm going to stay in the team, which is going to be difficult, because we know how strong Arsenal's defence were last year. So it is a great move for him. You know, he's going to be thinking of himself and think, I'm going to the champions, I'm going to be playing Champions League. We're going to try and win everything, so he can't turn that down.
And I guess for Arsenal as well, a huge amount of the appeal for Konsa is that he plays centre-back and right-back, so he gives you versatility.
Gives you versatility, gives you experience, gives you consistency. Look, he played a 38-game season, followed by a 35, 34, 34. He's always pretty much there for Aston Villa. His injury record is pretty much exemplary. And also the fact that, look, you've got Arsenal talking about, you know, they're the kings of rhetoric in this pre-season, right? They're talking about wanting to become one of the best club in the world and compete with the likes of not just in Premier League, but European domination, world domination, all these kind of things. Well, that's going to be really enticing for a player like Konsa, who's journeyed through the EFL and got through Aston Villa and now sees this as potentially as a huge step. So he's probably hearing those things, getting really excited for what Jeff said, getting to compete with those kind of things. And at a time when, like we said, Villa's in a state of flux. Does he want to be the guy that's kind of the centre pin, the linchpin of the rebuild, or is he the guy that feels like it's time to move on? That's what he's got to figure out.
I mean, for Villa fans, we are going to be live to Villa Park very shortly, so we'll get the perspective, or as much as we can, from the club. But this is going to be concerning for them. They're seeing a huge amount of news involving exits from their club this week.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for them, because they've done really well. They have a manager they trust in, and I suppose now they'd have to trust in who the manager's bringing in and this sort of rebuild that they're doing. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but you talk to any of the fans, they love Unai Emery, and you know they're going to have to be in for a bumpy start, I suppose.
Window, and a huge breaking story. Manchester United closing in on a deal for Carlos Baleba, a player that they'd made an approach for 12 months ago. Personal terms are in place, and as the Athletic first reported, an offer was made by Manchester United of 60 million plus 5 million in add-ons. It's slightly below Brighton's valuation, but talks are ongoing, and Manchester United are confident of closing this deal. Brighton also accept an exit now, as opposed to 12 months ago when they wouldn't name a price for Baleba, and this deal is expected to progress. And for Manchester United, it means 3 midfielders, Baleba, plus 2 others with Premier League experience as well, in Yuri Tielemans, 35 million from Aston Villa after Manchester United triggered the release clause there, plus Andre Santos, £50 million from Chelsea. And if Manchester United can get a left-back through the door between now and the end of the window, and they're also alert to the number 9 market as well, suddenly this window has a very different complexion on it. So Carlos Baleba to Manchester United expected to happen, and so is Ezri Konsa to Arsenal. As we reported previously on TalkSport, Konsa always the top target, despite links with Gerald Quansah and Jacobo Ramon at Como. Both of those players genuine targets, but Arsenal want Konsa partially because of his experience and form, but also due to the fact he can play centre-back and cover William Saliba, and right-back as well. Now, there has been a big gulf in valuation throughout the summer. Arsenal originally bid 30 million and then made it clear to Villa they were prepared to go up to 40 million. Villa have always said 60 million or more, pointing towards Jan-Paul van Hecke and Max Lacroix, who both went for 52 million. But the expectation is that this gap in valuation has now closed enough that the parties are all confident that this deal can also take place, and Arsenal expect to close it. And it means that Aston Villa have lost, if this deal, of course, goes through, Ezri Konsa. There's a question mark over the future of Emi Martinez. Luca Digne went to PSG. Tielemans, as I said before, off already to Manchester United. But Villa are going to be busy between now and the end of the market with more incomings expected. They unveiled a double deal, don't forget, earlier today, an exclusive story that I broke on TalkSport. Zion Suzuki joining from Parma on a 5-year contract, 30 million euros, 5 million in add-ons, and Suzuki being signed as the first choice goalkeeper. And also through the door, Villa confirming Matteo Regueri joining from Atletico Madrid for a fee in the region of 17 million. And then Ollie Watkins, Al Hilal, a huge story, and Al Hilal intend to bid again. Aston Villa turning down a total package of 45 million euros for Watkins. It's actually Al Hilal's third bid, but it's their first in writing. And Hilal sources tell me they will make an improved offer, and they believe that Ollie Watkins is keen on the move. Villa, therefore, if they sanction it, even though they prefer to keep, will need another attacker. They were looking anyway at various forwards, including Chelsea's Nico Jackson, who Unai Emery had at Villarreal.